Hello everyone, welcome to DG Bytes. I am Vaibhav Gupta, your Alteryx expert, and today we are going to learn about some good practices that Alteryx developers in all the organizations should follow to make their working practices to be standard. Then why wait? Let's start. There are various practices that Alteryx developers should follow while working in any organization and within team, which will really help them to improve their work efficiency in Alteryx. Let's understand them one by one. First good practice is to create a standard template for your Alteryx workflow. When we say standard template, it means creating a well organized template which is thoroughly utilized by all the developers within the team or the organization so that all the workflows are readable for all the developers, and maybe if a new person joins in the team, it will be easy for them to understand the workflow. So let's take an example here. What I will do is I will drag in a container and let's name it as a template. I will now drag in another container into it and name it as input. Now I will drag in another container and name it as output. Similarly, another container and name it as logic. And another tool, which is a comment tool. And let's give each color container a different color. So let's say for this container, I give it as this. For output, let's say kind of greenish. And for logic, maybe yellow. And for comments, let's say lighter green. So what we will do is, so this will be our standard template or format in which all the developers will develop their workflow. So for example, if a new developer comes in, so what he has to do is he will drag the same input tool of the same color, an output tool of the same color, and logic in between, and same type of comments everywhere. So the format is like we will be using one container for input, one container for output, and one container for logic, or maybe multiple containers for logic, but with the same color coding and same number of sections. So it will really help them to organize the workflow in a standard way, and it will be very readable and understandable for all the developers. So this is what I meant by creating a standard template which will enable a good practice within the team or the organization for Alteryx developers. Second good practice that Alteryx developers can follow is creating a logical standard name for their workflows. So creating a naming convention which is thoroughly followed by each and every developer. Let's say if you are developing a workflow which has to be saved in a production environment. So maybe the workflow naming convention would be like prod, which is representing the production environment, then underscore the data source. Let's say if I have a data related to employee, so prod underscore employee underscore the destination, maybe the table name, etc. So it will be a standard convention which will really help people to identify what this workflow is doing or where the data is coming from, to which environment it belongs, and where it is writing the data. Third good practice that Alteryx developers that can follow is there are certain sets of macros which are common between teams or the organization. Let's say there are calculations related to dates, maybe fiscal year, financial year, etc. There are macros related to getting the names of the individuals from the directory list of the organization, or maybe another sets of use cases which are very common in the organization. So such workflows or macros should be shared commonly in a public folder within the organization so that all the developers can make use of it instead of investing time and recreating the same type of code again and again. So it will be really helpful for all the developers to share such common things which will be useful for other developers. Fourth thing that developers can follow is creating a logical subcontainers within the containers in Alteryx workflow. So when we say logical containers, it means a single logic should be within one container. So in case I do not want to uh, run that particular set of code which includes that one logic, then I can disable that logic and run the workflow, and it will help me to run the workflow in a faster way instead of wasting time into that particular logic which is not needed at that particular step. So this is one of the good practice if we logically organize our workflow in the subcontainers, which will really help us to optimize it. Fifth thing that Alteryx developers should keep in mind is while creating schedules on the gallery, they should make sure that they are creating schedules in a way so that it is not creating queues in the gallery. Why? Suppose you there is a workflow which takes 3 hours and there is a workflow which hardly takes 2 minutes. So scheduling a workflow which takes 2 minutes every day or every hour will not result in any sorts of queues on the gallery. But scheduling a workflow every 3 hours or 4 hours, which takes approximately 3 hours to execute, will create a queues in the gallery because it is taking the maximum bandwidth while executing. So we need to make sure that the scheduling is done in a logical way, that it does not impact other persons' schedules on the gallery and resulting in queues. Sixth thing that Alteryx developers should keep in mind is while creating their workflows, the data connections that they utilize in the workflows should be created in gallery. So in that way, what will happen is all the users which want to use those connections, they need not to write all the credentials, connection string, and other stuff in the workflow again and again. They just simply request the access to that particular connection and can directly use that connection from the gallery, and it will save their lot of time, and they need not to add multiple information again and again. Hope you like all the points that are mentioned in the video, and it will really help you to standardize your Alteryx development practices. In case you feel that there are more points that can be added here, please mention them in the comments or write us over the mail that has been written in the description section. Please do subscribe our channel and keep watching our videos.